All right, back for another beer review, and today I'll be reviewing yet another beer from Hop Butcher for the World, and they're out of Chicago, Illinois, and this is their only interested in New Zealand. So they're calling this one a Pacific Sunrise Nelson Sauvin and Riwaka-hopped Double IPA. Comes in at 8% alcohol by volume. No IBUs listed. Time of review. This can is just over 2 months old. And I'm going to give a huge thanks. Shout out once again to Hop Butcher for this beer. So big thanks to them. In the description box, I'll post a link to the beer mail video I did that contains all the goodies they hooked me up with. I'm really excited about this one because this is another entry into their Only Interested in series. They've done Only Interested in Citrus. They've done Only Interested in Tropical and Only Interested in Dank. I reviewed the first two, the Citrus and Tropical ones. Both of them were delicious. Didn't get a chance to review the Dank one, so hopefully they re-release it at some point. And I'm here for this one. So you got Pacific Sunrise, Nelson Sauvin, and Riwaka hops, all New Zealand hops. And yeah, really excited about this one. Also on the bottom, it says FIFA 22, Let's Go USA. That unfortunately did not work out. It didn't. It happens. Anyway, crack it open, get in the glass, see what we got going on. So, you know, I'm expecting some nice white grapes from the Nelson, maybe some like lemon lime and passion fruit and stuff. I'm looking forward to this one though. So, you know, New Zealand hops are awesome, Australian hops as well. Just love those down under hops. So do something like that. Don't want to get crazy here. We're going to cheat here. We are interested. Interested? Interesting. Not interesting. Only interested, not in. Anyway, yeah, that has that milky kind of Hop Butcher goodness you're accustomed to. Maybe a little darker than usual. Has like a deep honey orange color, I would say. Like I said, very murky. Has just under a 2-finger, super creamy, off-white looking head. Hold it up to the light. There's nothing getting through that. Yeah, plays the role. It's a good nose. Yeah, that's nice. So not as intense as some of the beers. Now, the last one I reviewed and then this one, they're both just over 2 months old. So I feel like they're not going to be as vibrant as if I was drinking them, you know, 4 to 6 weeks old. But I've had Hop Butcher beers 3.5, 4 months old that were still delicious. So yeah, but this has really nice, like a little bit of that white grape, passion fruit. This has like a really big crushed pineapple to me. Tangerine, orange, citrus for sure. There's also a slight like confectionery kind of sweetness, like almost vanilla-esque. I don't know if that's coming from the malt. Yeah, it smells like sweet white grapes, sweet crushed pineapple, tart and sweet passion fruit, candied citrus, things of that nature. It's a little bit of like a slight green kind of quality to this one. Not like hot burn, but just like green, like tomato stalk. Walking through a garden, as I say a lot. Yeah, so it smells sweet, definitely fruity, somewhat juicy, a little bit of that green quality as well. It smells really good. Let's get into it. Cheers, everybody. Thanks again to Hop Butcher. Taste is a little bit dialed back from the nose. Not substantially, but a little bit. Say like 10, 15%. Body on this, again, I've said it in so many recent reviews of Hop Butcher stuff. These body and mouthfeels, especially the bodies, they're amping them up because this is like higher side of medium, lower side of full. That this is like, I don't know, out of like the last half dozen I reviewed from them, almost all of them have like a thicker mouthfeel. It's cool. I've always said I don't really care if the mouthfeels are thick, if they're like 8, 9, 10%. But I must say, it's nice. It just nice to have that heft behind it, a nice viscosity. The mouthfeel, it's soft, it's smooth, it's creamy, it's Hop Butcher. Is it the best mouthfeel I've had from them? No. Is it up there? It's in the conversation for sure. The taste, what I think is kind of weird to me is the nose was screaming confectionery, sweeter, vanilla. And then I get to the taste, and while it still has some sweetness behind it, it is really dialed back in the sweetness and the overall characters of the beer. So that pineapple, the white grapes, the passion fruit, the citrus tones, while they were candied and sweet, in the taste, it's that characteristic of that fruit, but without like an accompanied sweetness that would scream like candy or overly sweet, which is welcome to some degree, but I was hoping for a little bit more intensity. So right tip of the tongue, I'm getting tangerine, orange. It's slightly juicy, slightly sweet, but it's like encompassing the entire fruit. passes through. Again, that pineapple, passion fruit, white grapes, I would say. Why would I say white grapes? Yeah. Because there's Nelson in here, I feel they're going to say white grapes somewhere on the tasting notes. And more often than not, say crisp white grapes. So I think they'll say crisp white grapes again. I wouldn't necessarily call them crisp. They're white grapes. So that's all front half of the palate. There's an underlying slight like crackery malt sensation, very slight. That confectionery vanilla thing is a little bit in there. Touch of like a bubblegum kind of yeast profile too, very slight. But on the finish, it has this green, dank herbaceousness. Almost grassy to a degree. This one finishes semi-dry with like a mild to moderate bitterness. So the one thing, a lot of folks I've talked to that have Hop Butcher that, aren't beer tubers that review beer, a lot of times they'll say, well, some of their, double IPAs, especially and triple IPAs, can be too sweet. And I get that. Like a lot of them have a candied essence to them or just don't have a big bitterness to kind of break up the monotony of all the sweetness. So I get that. This one, I don't think right now, if you pick this off the shelf, you would have that problem because I'm definitely not having that problem with it being too sweet. Let me pour a little bit more in here. There's goodies. I keep these upside down at this point because there's so much shit that falls in. It doesn't look like that's the case here. You never know what you're going to find at the bottom of a Hop Butcher can. One more sip. 8% hides it extremely well. There's no warming in my chest. There's no electricity on the palate. Pouring in the rest of that, like some of the goodies, I guess, I'm starting to get a little hot burn with it. This is my least favorite in the series, just being honest with you. Is it a bad beer? No. Is it a great beer? Definitely not. Again, this is just over 2 months old, so not prime freshness. But again, I've had so many that have held up. This one doesn't seem to be one that has held up, or maybe it just wasn't that great to begin with. At least, again, to my palate, that's how we roll. Yeah, good overall beer. I just think that after having only interested in citrus and only interested in tropical, those I gave in the 4-5 range. This is not touching those beers. And I was probably the most excited about this one because I love New Zealand hops. I love Australian hops. So whenever I see that on a can, I'm like, yeah, sign me up. I love Nelson. Riwaka's fantastic. Pacific Sunrise, little unfamiliar with, have had them in beer, have had those hops in beers, just not all that regularly. Yeah, good beer, not great. We'll do tasting notes after I give this a rating. So overall, I still think this is a damn solid, enjoyable beer. Body's fantastic. Mouth feels right behind it. The taste is still good, not great. This had a lot of potential. I think if it was a little bit sweeter and a little bit more intense of those flavors, easily would get in the 4.25, maybe high 4.25 range. Not going to touch that though. So only interested in New Zealand. I have no issues giving this we'll just go straight 4 out of 5. I mean, I think that's a solid score for what I'm drinking. This is a 4 out of 5 hazy. Doesn't matter who brewed it. I think it's in that realm. It's not one of the better Hop Butcher beers I've had. Certainly not recently. So tasting notes, a bright citrus. Yes, I said candied citrus. You could have said juicy citrus, at least in the nose. But bright citrus in the taste, I don't necessarily say it's bright, but it's noticeable, so that's fine. Ripe berries, I did not taste berries whatsoever. A little bit in the nose, I got berries, but not on the taste, so did not nail that. And, come on. Jeremiah, and juicy white grapes. Not crisp, but juicy. I wouldn't say juicy. I don't know what I'd say. It wouldn't be crisp, but definitely white grapes in here. So juicy white grapes, I get it. So yeah, I mean, I kind of 2 out of 3, I'm on the same page. The ripe berries definitely did not get. So I don't know if it's age or just my poor palate. Probably the latter because it's just a really bad palate. Price point availability. I think in the Chicagoland, these are like 15, 16 bucks a 4-pack. If it makes distro, you're probably talking $20 a 4-pack like any other brewery. Yeah, it's the going rate. That's what you have to pay if you want to try it. If you're in Chicago, great value. If you're out of Chicago, maybe not the best value. Would I buy this again? Probably not. Maybe I would buy it if it was really fresh just to see if there's any difference. So if they re-release it and I can try a fresh can, I'd be happy about it. Not to say this is old. Again, just over 2 months old. Just there is a difference with most beers. If this, let's say this is almost 9 weeks old. Compare this to something that is 9 days old. It's going to be a big difference. The availability, who knows, is Hop Butcher. Maybe it shows up by you, maybe it doesn't. You can get them online at different websites. Tavor carries them occasionally, some other ones. And if you're in Chicago, you can pick them up. And if you're in random bigger cities, they show up. So I don't know if this one will show up, although this one did show up close to me. I was close to buying it, but then they sent me the mail and I didn't need to. So huge thanks to Hop Butcher for this beer. Thanks to everybody stopping by for another beer review here on the Beer Patrol. Post in the comments section If you've had this one before, be curious to see what you think about it. If you've had all the beers in the Only Interested in series, tell me, what is your favorite? What's your least favorite? Where do you rank this? Because this is, of the 3 I've had, definitely dead last. Anyway, appreciate it. To the next one. Cheers.